America is back as a trusted partner. Well, that's supposed to be President Biden's message in his first address to the United Nations today. The problem, his administration's actions say otherwise, and they speak volumes.
After the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and a serious breach with the French, America's allies are asking, can the United States be trusted? CBN's Jenna Browder has the story from Washington.
President Biden's message to the United Nations is that America is back to being a global partner with a foreign policy rooted in diplomacy. But some allies are questioning his word, given recent events. From the chaotic U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan and the crisis at our southern border, to a push for booster shots for Americans when most of the world has yet to receive their first, and other bad news stories. Recent headlines call into question U.S. leadership in the world. The French are so angry they've pulled their ambassador to the U.S. This after our new security agreement with Australia killed France's deal to sell them submarines.
I've been recalled for consultations. That's the meaning of this procedure, which is uncommon and which marks the seriousness of our reaction and of this moment in our relations with the United States.
Underscoring it all, the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan that outraged NATO partners. In August, the German politician who's running for chancellor as head of Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union Party, criticizing the U.S. for acting unilaterally, calling it the greatest debacle in NATO's history. Members of Britain's parliament echoing that sentiment, actually condemning the American president and calling for a new direction.
We can set out a vision, clearly articulated, for reinvigorating our European NATO partners, to make sure that we are not dependent on a single ally, on the decision of a single leader.
This is not what the Europeans or the American media expected from Joe Biden. Heavily critical of former President Trump's bombastic foreign policy, word was that the, quote, grown-ups would be back in charge.
When Biden came in, people let down their guard. They expected that this would be an easier moment, an easier time in American diplomacy, and to some extent, it has not been.
Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution telling CBN News that France in particular felt ambushed by the submarine deal, something it would have expected more under the Trump administration. O'Hanlon says trust is going to have to be built back up.
Negotiate with allies before you make the next big decision on an alliance change or a use of force. You compromise with them. You seek out common ground. You don't do things secretly. These are the kinds of principles that I think the Biden team's going to have to restore, which most of us expected they would be following from the outset, but in fact have breached on a number of occasions.
And in his speech at the UN General Assembly today, President Biden is expected to call for greater diplomacy and renewed global alliances to fight the coronavirus pandemic and climate change. These leaders, though, will want to see his words backed up with action. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.